Hello and welcome to the AI Business Leadership Podcast, where we speak to business leaders about all things artificial intelligence. I'm your host, Laura Nelson, Head of Product at SolvedBy.Ai, and today's guest is Georgios Markakis, Managing Partner at Venero. Hello, Georgios.
Hi, Laura. It's great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you speaking with us today. So, Georgios is Managing Partner at Venero, which is the global #1 ranked work tech mergers and acquisitions advisor. He is a leader with more than 20 years of experience in deal origination and execution, financial analysis, due diligence, strategic review, and valuation. So today we're going to hear about his journey into leadership, and we're also going to talk about the influence of AI on the fundraising landscape, both for startups and established businesses, what investors are looking for when it comes to AI in business, and some of Georgios' advice for business leaders. So thanks very much for coming and chatting with us today. Could you just share with our listeners a little bit about your background and what brought you to your current position as managing partner at Venero?
Yes, sure. Great agenda, by the way.
Thanks.
Very interesting to me, at least. Yeah. So my background. My studies were in computer science. So I do have a master's in computer science, as I'd like to say. But I've been in finance for the vast majority of my career. Started investment banking many years ago. I was at Deutsche Bank, covering M&A across a number of geographies. And then myself and a few others, we started Venero maybe almost 8 years ago. We started out as generalists, helping companies with M&A, mergers, acquisitions, or capital raising. And I think it was 2018 or 19 where we focused exclusively on the future of work. So we started working exclusively with HR tech and work tech companies. The reason we switched to this sector exclusively is because back then the sector was booming. In 2018, 2019, we had a ton of deals, fantastic valuations for businesses, a lot of investment going into the space. And so we were a small team back then, and so we said, look, this is a great sector to be in. We were getting a lot of deal flow already, so we focused exclusively on the space. And then since then, we've done more deals in the sector than anybody by far. And hopefully, some of this will be interesting to the listeners today.
And so you'll have seen, as everyone has really, you'll have seen artificial intelligence becoming a part of all those industries you've worked in and all those businesses that you work with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So look, AI has been around for many years, as I'm sure a lot of people should know. It's just that it was what we would call predictive AI up until a couple of years ago, and then generative AI emerged with with a bang recently. Up until a couple before ChatGPT, predictive AI was almost very hard to implement. You needed a lot of data scientists. It was expensive. Data scientists were expensive. You needed a lot of access to a lot of data. So a lot of the vendors that were offering AI really had a competitive advantage versus a lot of others. And for the users using AI, it wasn't necessarily very prevalent, right? So it was a few use cases, and maybe didn't necessarily have a huge impact on productivity. Since ChatGPT came to the forefront, generative AI, a lot of the LLMs, that shifted the landscape, both for the vendors offering AI as well as for the users who were the recipients or who were using AI in their daily jobs. And that's the big difference. In the last 2 years, AI, especially generative AI, has become much more prevalent. And yeah, both vendors and users are now using it or need to become more proficient in it in their day-to-day work lives.
And how are you seeing then that massive increase in the use of AI and the kind of how many businesses are involved with AI. How are you seeing that affecting the fundraising landscape for startups?
Yeah. Look, I think a lot of investors, or every investor at this point, recognizes that AI is here to stay. And not only is it here to stay, but I like to compare it to the web browser back at the early days of the internet, right? So the web browser, it made the internet accessible to everybody. So generative AI and all the tools that are being coming to market, they make AI accessible to everyone. So it's something that every investor values and they focus on it. So when it comes to fundraising, if you don't have an AI use case, or if you're not using AI to somehow improve your product, then probably you don't have as much excitement from investors. Now, of course, not every tech company needs AI, right? And AI doesn't have a use case for everything. But certainly, if there are use cases and vendors are not using it, they would have a hard time, fundraising.
Yeah. And what about then? So you appreciate, it's not necessarily relevant for every business, but there's probably a use case for, most businesses, right? And even more established businesses when it comes to fundraising and being at that cutting edge of technology. Have you seen changes in how established businesses have to fundraise as well now with AI?
Yeah. So again, so AI, right? So there's the users of AI. So there's the end users who buy the product that has AI, and they make their lives more efficient. And of course, there's a lot of use cases for that on the user side of things. And then on the tech vendor side of things, both small vendors and large vendors are incorporating AI in their offering. So yeah, it's the same. It's the same for larger vendors. The only difference between smaller vendors and larger vendors is to what extent AI can be native within their product versus a bolt-on, and how seamlessly it can be integrated so that the experience for the user is meaningful and user friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So if if the product is already built out, and there's no AI thinking, implemented in the product. AI might be, maybe even an awkward bolt-on. For a smaller vendor who has thought about incorporating AI more natively, it can be a much more seamless experience for the user.
And what about then for companies that are purely AI focused? So they're not trying to incorporate AI, their product is an AI product. What are VCs looking for when investing in those kinds of companies?
Yeah, yeah. AI first businesses certainly are super hot at the moment. Uh, uh, Investors look at the team. They look at the caliber of the tech team, the product team. How experienced are they in AI? There's a lot of companies that used to say that they use AI, but either they use kind of off the shelf AI products, or are not really using AI, in a meaningful way. But if you're an AI first business with a strong tech team, tackling a very major pain point for end users, in a big market, that's what investors are really looking for. And
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's useful for me to know as head of product for an AI first company, so I'll make note of that. So when you're when you're trying to evaluate AI startups or AI businesses for potential investment, what are some of the challenges in that sort of evaluation process?
so the first thing is that the investor, so there's obviously a long list and range of investors. There's investors that really understand AI, and investors who have high level non-technical understanding of AI. Now, I have come across investors and shout out to Thomas Soter from Acadian, who have actually taken the time to go out and study, right, AI, and do a master's or whatever, a graduate degree in AI, so that they can understand the technology and understand, okay, when someone is telling me that they're doing X, Y, Z, right, am I able to assess it and say, yeah, this is good or this is not great? This is not great.
Mm-hmm.
So an investor needs to have the ability to understand the technical complexities of the product. Otherwise, their investment would be much more, much would be based on softer factors, and this is not necessarily would not necessarily be able to appreciate or distinguish between quality differentiated use of AI versus a more generic, off-the-shelf use of AI products.
And so, do you kind of look to have a range of those sort of skills? So, the more technical understanding, the more business understanding, when you're kind of as a group looking at investments.
Yeah, so I mean, not everybody on the team would be on the VC side of things. Not everybody will be super technical, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But at least you need, and look, and VCs will often bring outside experts, right, to help them assess the technology. So they don't necessarily need themselves to be technically savvy, but certainly you need to have somebody on the team who brings that to the table, whether it's in-house or external. Certainly you need that, yeah.
And that's, I guess, no different to any sort of technology investment. That's not unique to AI.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So, do you have either any success stories or any cautionary tales from Venero's experience with AI-related investments?
So look. So first of all, so we advise companies that are looking to exit or to sell to another business or to raise funding, and I can tell you that there's two things I would focus on. One is you need to be aware of what everybody else is saying. So when you're building a narrative about your business and your differentiation, sometimes we come across founders who are not necessarily aware that everybody else says the same thing, right? So they think that they're saying, yeah, we're the best, we're doing this, but yes, but everyone says the exact same thing. So when you're approaching an investor or when you're approaching an exit, you need to be aware of that and adjust your narrative so that you're not just another person, another company saying the exact same thing that everybody else is saying. That's the first thing. And the second thing is sometimes founders or businesses that are looking to exit or fundraise, they don't necessarily appreciate, where the bar is set when it comes to making your product attractive or appealing from a technology perspective. There's a lot of funding that has gone into AI. There's a lot of very smart people working on AI. So, when you want to benchmark yourself versus others, when you're looking for funding or whether you're looking for an exit, you just need to be aware of where everyone else is when it comes to their capabilities, and then play to your strengths in those processes.
Cool, very cool. So, I guess being involved in VC and M&A, you obviously see details of a wide range of businesses and industries. We kind of talked a little bit about this already, but how have you seen AI in business evolving over the last few years, and what have been some of the most significant milestones that you've seen?
Yeah. So on the business side of things, so when it comes to using AI, a lot of people have said this, and that's why the sector and the products are so appealing for investors as well. I mean, AI will become an integral part of work life. So end users will adopt products that make them more efficient, more productive, and this will impact sometimes their role, their job, their function, their industry. And the main thing that we're seeing now is a tendency for people to shift from fearing AI and being a bit, reluctant to adopt it, to realizing that, look, I need to start to understand how I can make myself more efficient in the use of AI tools. And that would be the best way for me to not necessarily just keep my job, but become better at my job, right? Stay, it's like somebody back in the day, in the start of the internet, saying, I don't want to start to use a web browser. Well, okay, you can choose not to use a web browser to search the internet to make yourself more efficient. But if you don't, you're going to fall behind. So when it comes to adoption of AI tools among end users, I think now a lot of people realize that they just need to become better educated on using these tools, because there's there's no turning back. So they need to keep up.
Yeah, it's definitely been a huge milestone. I think even a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, you wouldn't have said that the majority of people would use AI tools in their day-to-day work, or at least not knowingly. But now, pretty much everyone would. And like you say, there's then that risk if you're not doing that, you're not familiarizing yourself with these tools of falling behind.
Yeah. And I'll say the other thing, that some people look at the state of AI today, or at least Gen AI, and they're like, well, it's not great, it still makes mistakes. So, but don't draw the wrong conclusions from that, right? Just because today it's not perfect doesn't mean that it will keep getting better, right? So don't ignore it, or don't assume that it will not get better. I mean, this kind of rapid improvement. So in 1 year's time, in 2 years' time, it will get much better, right? And yes, you're right. It will move from AI running on behind the scenes to AI being much more at the forefront of what we do. So people shouldn't assume that just because it's not perfect today, they can ignore it. I mean, it will get better very quickly, and then the learning curve will only become steeper.
I think we find as well with tools like our AI-based scheduling tool, for example, it's not almost not about it being perfect or it being a perfect replacement for a human. It's about having an AI being able to do that heavy lifting, being able to do maybe 75% of the work for you, and then you come in as a person and just finish off the rest, or being able to do things that you can't do very easily as a human, like crunch, thousands and thousands of data points every time you make a decision, for example. So it's kind of that AI doing that heavy lifting. Even if it's not necessarily perfect, it can still take a good chunk of the lower value work away from someone having to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So something I ask everyone about it on the podcast, and we usually end up talking about it before now as well, but the pace of any technology development, but particularly AI technology development, is absolutely rapid, and it's difficult for people and businesses to keep up most of the time. So how would you advise businesses to stay agile and stay adaptable in their strategies when it comes to AI, that in a way that can help them stay competitive and relevant when things are changing and moving so quickly?
I would say explore, right? So it doesn't need to be a firm strategy that says, yes, we're doing this and there's no turning back. But at this point, because developments are so rapid, at this point, you are at the stage of exploration, right? I remember back in the day when I think it was Java was first, a new thing, and I was doing my master's, as I mentioned earlier, at Merrill Lynch, I remember my manager said, "Look, just play with Java. Understand what can it do for us. Can it be better?" And then so they built a tool with this new technology, and they compared it to what they have today. So I think same thing, similar concept today. Explore what AI can do for you today, right? Test it out, understand it, and then as it gets better, you can decide the next step, or maybe it's good enough for you today, but certainly explore. That's what I would say.
It's almost kind of similar. Any new technology or any new sort of options, or even kind of like physical tech that you need to be aware of for your business, you need to be aware of it in order to think how you might be able to apply it to your business.
Yeah, and you might try it and you might say, well, it's not good enough yet, okay, good, fine. At least you tried it. You understand what it's able to do today. If it's not good for you today, that's fine. Visit it, in 6 months, in a year's time, it will have gotten better.
And I guess kind of on that note, just to wrap us up, could you share with us then one prediction that you have for what artificial intelligence might be able to do for us in 10 years' time?
In 10 years' time, it's a long time for AI. Look, I think probably I would probably say AI would probably become much more integral part of our life outside of the desk. So through some type of wearable device, or on the consumer side of things, we may be able to. I think that 10 years is, I think, a long enough time to assume that the hardware interface will have also caught up, and we will be able to benefit from that, on the consumer side of things as well. Because on the B2B side, yeah, I mean, AI is here already, can make us more efficient already. Even if it's not 100%, like you said, even 75% improvement, it's already there. I think in 10 years' time, integrated with some type of wearable, or wearable devices, that's probably the main thing that will be different. Hopefully for the better.
Yeah, I'm sure. Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much, Georgios, for speaking with me today, and for sharing your insights and your expertise. It's been really interesting to hear about you and your leadership journey, and talk about how fundraising, investment, and things has been changed and impacted by AI, and get some of your advice for business leaders. So thanks very much.
Yeah, pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
So that concludes this episode of the AI Business Leadership Podcast. Keep an eye on our socials for more conversations with leaders in business and AI innovation, and we'll see you next time.